Hello, everybody. I'm very, very happy to welcome today my good friend and mentor, Steve Lowell, who is the author of the #1 best-selling book, Deep Thought Strategy, and also the vice president of Global Speakers Federation. And he travels around the world with his wife, Jane, coaching and training experts and professional speakers. Steve, hello, welcome. I'm so excited to be with you today here.
Hi, Chaim. I'm so excited to be with you, and thanks for doing this. And by the way, congratulations on launching your amazing program, the J Wealth Network and the J Wealth Book Club, and all the great work that you're doing. You're helping so many people.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I can say that you had a big role in helping me get to where I am today. Thank you for that. I think for today, let's focus on setting goals. Since we're recording this in January, and we all see a lot of people are so focused now on setting goals, how they want the year to look for them. And happens to be the J Wealth Club is also a 12-month membership. So for the people who join this month, it's going to be for the entire year. For people who join in a few months, it's going to be for 12 months after that. But we're still going to set goals. And by every new thing that's happening, people want, New Year's goals, New Year's resolutions, people focus on setting goals. Why do you think people focus so much on setting goals?
I think there's two reasons for it. Number one is because they're taught to. And, we hear a lot of experts and a lot of business gurus and personal development gurus talk about goals and goal setting. And this time of the year, it's big business. And everybody wants to start the year with an outcome, a desired outcome that they have for the coming year. And so they set goals because they've been taught to. And that's a good thing. There's nothing at all wrong with that. The other reason I think people set goals is because naturally, I think people feel more comfortable if they see a destination in mind and if they've got a series of achievements that they can look forward to. So there's an emotional attachment to it. So I think between the sort of the pressure of being instructed, it's the beginning of the year, I'm supposed to set goals, and that emotional piece where I'd like to see where we're going, that's a part of it too. But it happens not just at this time of the year. As you said, we're recording this in January, and it happens not just in January, but when people join a new program, when they start a new job, when they start a new business, when they embark on a new challenge, there's an excitement to setting goals. There's an excitement to putting the roadmap out before you. Like your members, when they join the J Wealth Network, they're going to have this inherent excitement on the goals and the achievements that they want to look forward to. And so those are the two main reasons I think why people like to set goals, particularly at this time of the year.
Very clear. We all understand that. Fast forward 12 months from today, in December. I remember December like it was yesterday. Last December, how many people cried for me, Chaim, I set goals in January, but I didn't accomplish the goals. Why do you think, Steve, that most people or a lot of people who set goals, they end up not accomplishing them?
Again, there's a number of reasons for it that I've seen over the years. And in working with, experts of all kinds and entrepreneurs and professional speakers and coaches and trainers and authors and financial consultants and, all kinds of experts, they all set goals. So many of them don't achieve their goals. And I think that there's a number of reasons for it. Number one, I believe, is because oftentimes people set goals that are not necessarily attainable within a reasonable sphere of error, which means sometimes we hear people setting massive goals, which is okay. It's good. It's okay to do that. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But where people fall short is when they set these goals that there's no way that they can attain with those goals without some sort of extraordinary influence. So for example, I might have somebody come to me and say, you know what, Steve, I want to make $100 million this year. And I'd say, okay, well, that's great. And where are you at right now? And they'd say, well, I haven't started yet, and we're already in July. right? And so something extraordinary has to happen for that goal to become a reality. I'll see people come to me and say, I want to sell 1 million books this year. And I'll say, great, where are you right now? Well, I haven't started writing it yet. And so they've got these massive goals. And the reason they set goals like this, again, is sometimes they've been taught to do that. And again, it's not necessarily wrong to do that. It's just that when people set these goals that are really unattainable without some sort of extraordinary intervention, typically they don't reach those goals. The other reason why people don't reach goals, I think, is because they set the goal, but there's a flaw in the plan of achievement. There's a flaw in their process to reaching that goal, and they haven't properly thought out the steps required to set the goal. And so many people are under the belief that if I set the goal and if I rely on my ability to manifest through the universal laws, and if I rely on those things alone, the goal will become a reality. But the real reality is that there are steps that need to be taken in order to achieve a goal, and so many people, they miss those steps, or they do them incomplete, or they do them incorrectly. And then the other reason why I think people don't reach their goals is because if they do have a plan and they start working that plan and moving towards those goals, and if they feel like they're falling behind, or they see themselves falling behind, they lose the emotional connection to the goal, and then they simply give up. And then a fourth reason why people don't achieve their goals, I believe, is because of lack of support. They set big goals for themselves and they share those goals with everybody and anybody, and key influencers in their lives come to them and say, Chaim, there's no way you're ever going to reach that goal. Forget about it. And they get so much of that negative feedback from people who don't believe that it starts to permeate within their mind, and they start to develop doubt in their ability to achieve those goals. So I think those are the 4 biggest reasons why I see that people fail to achieve their goals.
Steve, I have seen you talk about this very same issue we're discussing now by demonstrating it very nicely on a screen, which I think the listeners, people who work with me, a lot of the people I work with are very visual people, and I think it would be a big benefit if you can spend a few minutes just to illustrate what you just said.
Sure. All right, give me a second to share my screen, and I'll roll it out for you. Okay, so typically this is the process we see when we set goals. The first thing that usually happens is it starts with an idea. We have an idea, something that we want to achieve. I want to make $1 million in the next year, or whatever it is. I'll give you an example as I'm discussing this and show you an example of how this happened with me. Many years ago, I had an idea. It was a great idea. It was one of those ideas that woke me up at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was going to start an online training program. And because this idea popped me out of bed in the morning, I had this very great idea. I was going to create this online training program, and I had it all mapped out in my head. I needed a website, I needed a landing page, I needed a payment system, and I had it all mapped out. And because I had it all mapped out in my head, I had a lot of emotion around that idea. I was very excited about the idea. And then what happened was I created a plan, and I started to work the plan. So I created a plan in my head, and I got up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and by the time 8 o'clock in the morning was come around, I was ready. My website was up, my landing page was up, all the emails were set up, the payment page was up, everything was set up. And what I had determined in my mind, it was that I was going to take consistent action over the next 60 days, and I was going to fill that event. And my goal was I wanted 1,000 participants. That was my goal. And so I went to work, and I was excited about the idea. And so I had a really great idea. I was very excited about it. I had strong emotion. I had worked out a plan of all the things that I was going to do to make it happen. And I got to work and I started, and it was all designed to achieve this goal. But here's what I didn't know. You see, after the first month, I had done everything so, exactly as I had planned, but I didn't get any enrollments. I didn't get a single registration. And so here's what happened was I started to fall behind. I wanted 1,000 registrations in the first 60 days. Well, 30 days in, I hadn't had anybody. So here's what happened. Because I was falling short, it affected my emotions, which means I started to become a little bit less excited. I started to have a little bit of doubt, and then I started to question the idea. And I thought maybe it's not such a great idea. And I thought maybe I need to change my plan. Maybe the plan isn't good enough. So I changed the plan. Then I started to change the actions. But the emotion with which I was executing the actions was not strong because I had doubt. And so I got farther from the goal. And when I got farther from the goal, that again started to affect my emotions, which again had me question the idea, which again had me change my plan, which again had me change my actions. And it just got into this cycle. And what happened while this was happening was my emotions and all my beliefs and everything about this plan just started to drop. And then I walked away. And the whole thing was this. I had realized afterwards that in order for me to reach this goal of 1,000 people, I realized that so much of that was out of my control, because in order for me to get 1,000 people in the membership, there were 1,000 people who had to say yes. There were 1,000 people who had to pay. There were 1,000 people who had to show up. There were 1,000 people who had to make all these decisions in order to be part of the community. All of those decisions were outside of my control. And so as I'm working and I'm doing the activity and I'm working the plan and changing the plan and changing everything I was doing, I still had no control over this outcome here. And so when nobody made those decisions, when nobody decided to participate, nobody decided to show up, nobody decided to pay, I took that as a personal attack against my actions and my plan, and that affected my emotions and again had me question the idea. So it all came tumbling down. So here's what I changed. And I'll just start this over again just so we can neaten it up a little bit. But here's what I changed. The process is basically the same. It starts with an idea. So now when I look at my goals, here's how I work it out. I get an idea for what I want to achieve, and that's great. And then what I do is, of course, I still have the emotion around the idea. So everything is exactly the same here. So I get excited about the idea. I make a plan in order to execute the idea, and I start taking action on the idea. But here's the difference. The goal here, here's what I realize. In order for this goal to be achieved, there are too many elements over which I have no control. Other people have to make decisions in order for the goal to be achieved. Other people have to take some sort of action in order for the goal to be achieved. So instead of this being a goal, I no longer make this a goal. So I call this a desired outcome, not a goal. The desired outcome is the same as what the goal used to be. Let's say it's 1,000 people into an organization. But what happens now, instead of me focusing on the desired outcome, this is what I desire to happen, but I'm not attached to it. Here's what I'm attached to. I'm attached to this, because the actions are what I have full control over. So these become my goals. And so instead of focusing on one big outcome as the goal, I focus on a series of actions as my number of goals. So here's what happens. I get the idea. I'm very excited about the idea. I make a plan to execute the idea. And then I set all of my actions, and these become my goals. And now I focus on whether or not I achieve those actions, because I have full control over the actions, where I don't have full control over the desired outcome. So now what happens is this: at the end of every day, every week, every month, or whatever, instead of me evaluating where I am with the desired outcome, which I will do, but that's not where I evaluate my success. I evaluate my success in terms of, did I take all the actions that I was supposed to take? And so here's the difference now. If I did not take the actions, there's only one person who is responsible for that, and that's me. And so that does not affect my emotions as much as not achieving, a desired outcome. Because if I want to achieve the desired outcome, all I have to do is do the actions. And so if I do the actions, I'm only evaluating against my own performance, and I'm not evaluating against the decisions of other people. And so now when I set goals, I focus on, I do have a desired outcome. I set a number, I do all of those things, but that's not what I attach my outcome. That's not what I attach my performance to. I attach my performance to, did I do what was required in order to work towards that desired outcome? So this becomes my focus of thought, not the outcome. And I think this is a big problem for so many people when they set goals and start working towards goals, is they attach their emotions to the wrong piece. They attach their emotions to the end game and not the process. And if we fall behind on the end game and it starts looking further and further and further away, it has a profound and powerful negative effect on our emotions, which then translates to the quality of our actions, which then pushes the goal further and further away. So my suggestion now with people is set the big goals, the $100 million goals. Set all of those things as big as you want to, but don't get emotionally attached to it. Get emotionally attached to the actions that you are committing to taking. And that way there's only one person that you need to hold accountable, and that's you. And so I think, your first question was, or one of your first question was, why do so many people fail to achieve their goals? I believe the biggest reason they fail of all is because they emotionally attach themselves to that massive end game. And as it starts getting further and further and further away, it dilutes their emotions, it dilutes the power of their actions, and then it drops off. Did that make sense?
Amazing. Yes. And the biggest reason why I love how you put it is because you give me total control.
Yeah.
The blaming him or her or my wife or my friend or, it's over. And I can't even blame my old self anymore either. I can only blame myself totally. And if it's to be, it's up to me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right.
So is there anything else, Steve, you can add what people can do in their ability to accomplish their goals, to make sure that they really accomplish it? What we discussed so far is planning. It's January, we plan for the next 12 months. It's wonderful. What can I do throughout the next 12 months, throughout the time period of me wanting to accomplish my desired outcome or my goals? What can I do to really make sure I am doing whatever I'm supposed to do to accomplish my end result?
So I think the first thing is this, and this is going to go against what a lot of people have learned from a lot of the large gurus. Some of the gurus will say, make these big, huge, scary goals. And I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I think there's a tipping point. There's a tipping point between a scary goal and an unrealistic goal. And so, for example, I'm a 58-year-old man. It doesn't matter how hard I work. The chances of me being a cheerleader for the Dallas Cowboys is not very good. So if I set a goal to be a professional football cheerleader, the chances of me achieving that are not reasonable. So what I'm saying is, you want goals that are big, goals that challenge you, goals that might even scare you. But you need to have goals that you can actually have some measure of belief in, some goals that are actually within the realm of reality to a certain degree. And I think it's different for each individual. And so, we set our goals, when my wife, Jane, who is the visionary in our business, when she sets our desired outcomes for the year, they scare me. I find them big, I find them challenging, and I find them scary. But what I don't find them is I don't find them unbelievable, because I know that if we do the right things, if we do them in the right order, and if we do them well, then chances are good we're going to get very close to that desired outcome. So what I do to remove some of that fear of the goal is take my emotional attachment off it and put my emotional attachment onto the actions. So the first thing is setting a goal that is at least within the realm of possibility, without sort of, some divine or miraculous interaction, right? So that's the first thing in my judgment. The second thing in my judgment is set the plan and commit to very specific, measurable activities. How many calls are you going to make every day? And be careful with this, because some people will say, I'm going to do 4 presentations a day. Well, that's not a goal. That's a desired outcome. Because if you're going to do a presentation, somebody else has to decide to be on the other end of that presentation, you see, and you lose control. But you can say, I'm going to make 10 calls a day. I'm going to make 5 videos a week. I am going to write 3 pages a day. I'm going to do these, whatever you can do. Another mistake I see people make is they'll say, okay, if I'm going to make $1 million this year, that's about $80,000 a month. That's about $20,000 a week. That's about $4,000 a day. And so I need to make $4,000 a day every day for the year to get to $1 million. The math is logical, but the achievement of that is not, because in order to make that money every day, other people need to decide to pay you, you see? So you need to really make sure that the plan of action contains activities over which you have absolute control and rely on nobody else's decision. So that's number 2, is to set that plan of action and make sure that your activities you have full control over. And the third piece is that I think you need to have an accountability partner. This is why I love so much what you're doing with J-Wealth, is that part of your organization is to help members hold each other accountable for these activities and for goal achievement. So you need some way to hold yourself accountable and to report on the achievement of the activities more than the outcomes. And then the fourth thing that I think is critically important is you need to give yourself permission to change. Give yourself permission to go off course, to change the plan. If it's not working, try something else. Change the number of activities or reorder the activities and remove some and add others. So change the plan as you go, as required, and you do that by measuring how close you are to the desired outcome without emotion. If you get attached to that desired outcome, in my judgment, you're at risk of separating yourself from it when you start to fall away from it. So those are the 4 main things that I think that I would suggest to help somebody achieve whatever goals they've set, whether it's this time of the year in January, whether it's any other time of the year, whether it's starting a new job, starting a new project, joining the J-Wealth community, or any other endeavor in which they embark. That's the process I believe that achieves the highest outcome.
Beautiful, Steve. I love that we're having this conversation as one of the first steps in the J-Wealth Club, because this is, in my opinion, and I know you agree, the fundamental ingredient for somebody to really make it big consistently and predictably. Make sure that you get the desired outcome. And the best way to get the desired outcome by focusing on the activity every day, which is a big, major part of the J-Wealth Club. Thank you so much for being with us today, Steve, and I hope we're all going to see you again very soon.
I'm sure we will. Thanks for the opportunity, and good luck.
Thank you.